So a few days ago, several million people, including my friends and I, all downloaded Squad Busters, the massively hyped new game by SuperCell, the developers of Clash of Clans and Brawl Stars to name a few. They've clearly spent a lot of money on polishing this game, and perhaps even more money on ads to try and get as many people as possible to download it. And it actually worked. Squad Busters made $1.1 million on its official launch day, and it's estimated that 8.8 million people downloaded the game by launch, with over 30 million downloads already. Interestingly, its official release was on the 29th of May, but because they did a soft launch of the game about a month prior, this kind of skews some of the download stats. Squad Busters is super important for SuperCell. They haven't actually done a successful global launch of a game for over 5 years now, with many of their releases getting straight up deleted because they simply weren't happy with the game for whatever reason. And despite the wide release, good revenue, and millions of downloads, unfortunately I do believe SuperCell might have another dud on its hands, which they could abandon within the next year. I know, they've got money coming in and a ton of downloads, but regardless, I do think there is a chance that this game still gets scrapped. You see, over the years, they've deleted over 30 games, even if they've managed to pick up quite a big player base. SuperCell have some of the most extreme standards for what makes a game successful, so a game which to URI looks like a complete success might be considered absolute doo-doo by them. Some of the bigger titles SuperCell have removed, scrapped, abandoned and cancelled include Everdale, Clash Quest, Flood Rush and Clash Mini. Well, Clash Mini wasn't completely destroyed, they sort of added it into Clash Royale, so it's kind of still around. What this cancellation habit means is SuperCell only have 6 games out right now, if you include Squad Busters, despite making dozens of mobile games for well over a decade. But Squad Busters is popular right now. It's like one of their biggest games to date, and they couldn't U-turn and call the whole thing off, could they? Well, I mean, they really could. After playing the game for a good few hours, and dozens of hours if you include my friends who I've also asked their thoughts on the game, I think there are a number of glaring issues which will end up causing the game's abandonment by players, and eventually SuperCell. Firstly, there's the gameplay. Now, it's pretty fun, I must admit. You get put on a map with 10 others, and you have to collect gold to build up your squad, and then gems as well, which makes you win the game. There's a mix of NPCs and items to attack for gold, as well as other players. But despite all of the different game modes, it just begins to feel very one note. If you've played a few games of Squad Busters, it pretty much feels like you've seen a majority of what the game has to offer. Now, on top of repetitive gameplay, there's a huge problem with the main mechanics of the game, in my opinion. It's basically Brawl Stars, but you don't even actually attack anyone. You see, the way attacking works is that you just stand still and it auto-attacks, so it doesn't really feel like you're doing anything. Sure, you get the odd ability here and there, but the reality of the gameplay is that you're just moving around to find something exciting, and then when you do, you just stand still. Also, there isn't really any benefit of getting into a fight with any other players. Your squad will inevitably end up smaller and weaker afterwards, unless you're going for, puny people who are so close to death, leaving you more vulnerable. So the best thing to do in reality is just constantly farm golden gems and run away from all the other players. It's also quite confusing with health levels, combined troops, and so much stuff going on the screen at a time. It can sometimes feel like a gamble when you enter a fight. It's not quite as cut and dry as, other SuperCell games like Clash of Clans. It's actually really hard at a glance to see what is going on, especially in the sort of final 30 seconds when everyone's in the middle. At best, the gameplay feels like a knockoff of Bed Wars and Brawl Stars combined, and at worst it feels like a visual mess and you just don't have a clue what's even going on. There's also currently nothing in the way of an actual co-op experience, and this is possibly my biggest criticism. You can queue up with friends, but you can't really do anything in-game together. It just feels like, apart from bumping into them every now and then, you may as well have just solo queued. SuperCell games are normally very big on making a gaming experience that's even more fun when you play alongside friends, and this just isn't the case right now on Squad Busters. So in summary, here's what the average Squad Busters game currently looks like, at least from my perspective. You spawn in, you get a few gold, all while trying to avoid everyone. You quite quickly build up a squad of about 4, but then immediately lose 3 after going round a corner and then getting bummed by someone. It's hard to chase people because everyone has the same movement speed, but if they pick up boots while you're chasing them down, then they're quicker and they'll immediately evade you. This tends to make it super easy to evade and super hard to chase. In a situation where you get stuck between 2 people though, you're done. You can't easily see what level someone's troops are at a glance, so it's difficult to gauge whether or not an enemy is stronger than you. Getting third-partied is super common, especially if you've just busted someone. Third-party eliminations are the easiest way to win, by the way. Just wait for someone else to do all the hard work and then sneak in at the end to get all the gems and gold when they're really weak as well. But in most normal circumstances, even if you win a fight, some prick will come along and wipe out your already weak squad. Most of the time when you win, you won't even realise, it will just be a matter of not bumping into people and waiting for them to wipe each other out. You can play really well for the entire game and then lose in the last 5 seconds. I recorded 2 matches, by the way, for this video, and hopefully the footage in the background will demonstrate what I'm trying to explain here. I was doing super well, and then in the last couple of seconds, I just lose everything. Also, speaking of unusual things for a game, top 5 is considered a win, which is quite odd. There's not really any strategy since there are so many random variables. Now, go ahead and attack me in the comments if you want to argue that this is actually a game of strategy and everything, but I truly think there are way too many random variables going on for it to, have any sort of level of competitiveness. Not to mention the fact it is a mobile game as well. One of these variables is how rich the other players are in real life. I found that no matter how hard you try, it's near impossible to come first in a game where anyone has mega units, which you often have to buy, by the way. And that brings me on to how aggressive SuperCell have been with trying to extract as much money as possible from their audience. I'm going to do a separate video covering in depth just how pay to win SuperCell games are these days, but here's a quick rundown on Squad Busters. Unsurprisingly, there are a ton of similarities to other SuperCell games here. You've got a Super Pass, which is just a battle pass. In the UK at least, that's £5. This gives you way more money, chests, and mega units. Mega units are the super OP single-use units that basically let you insta-win any lower level game. To be honest, this isn't the most egregious case of pay-to-win monetization, but it's still scummy how much of an advantage getting this pass can give to players. Then there are the limited time offers in the shop. These rotate over time just like in Fortnite and various other popular games, but they tend to give you extra units, money, or cases. Then you've got characters. The way you level up units is by collecting enough of them from boxes in matches to upgrade them. I'll put an example on the screen so it's clearer. Either you can grind out the game to get a 5-win streak to get some really good cases, or you can just buy specific characters in the shop to upgrade them. And yes, you can earn some gold in the game, but without the battle pass or buying a ton of gold in the shop, you're at a disadvantage. So basically you're at a massive advantage if you're buying gold, either through the battle pass or through just buying gold in the shop, since you can level up your characters much quicker. Also then, when you open cases, you don't have a choice over which characters you're getting, whereas just buying them in the shop makes it much quicker to build up the more overpowered characters. But it's not just character upgrades you can get with gold. Gold is far more overpowered than that. Let's say you don't like the starting character picks in a game. That's another thing, is the characters that you can get from your first box are completely random. Well, for a bit of gold you can just re-roll and get different ones. And there's more to just how awful their monetization is, but I think that needs another video. So for now, I'm going to say thanks for watching, and that is in essence my case for why I believe Squad Busters is going to end up losing a majority of its player base very quickly, which might lead SuperCell to straight up abandoning the project.